The train rattled endlessly through the dark, its metallic hum blending with the low murmur of passengers drifting in and out of sleep. Outside, the world was a blur of trees and snow, illuminated only by the faint silver of moonlight. I sat alone near the end of the carriage, my suitcase tucked beneath the seat, my book open but unread. I wasn't running from anything in particular, yet somehow, it felt like I was chasing the idea of disappearing, at least for a while. That was when she appeared. She slipped into the seat across from me as quietly as a shadow, her green coat dusted with snowflakes, her eyes soft yet piercing in the dim light. She gave a polite nod, then turned her gaze toward the window. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. There was a strange comfort in that silence, a shared stillness that didn't need to be broken. Eventually, she looked at me and asked, "Where are you headed?" I smiled faintly, unsure how to answer. "Nowhere, really. Just moving." Her lips curved into the smallest smile. "Then maybe we're both escaping something." There was no sadness in her tone, more like quiet acceptance. We spoke in fragments after that. She told me she was an artist who used to travel with her father every winter, but lately, she preferred traveling alone. She said trains made her feel suspended between two worlds, where memories couldn't quite reach her. I didn't tell her much about myself, but she didn't press. Somehow, she seemed to understand that silence was my native language. When the train slowed at a small mountain station, the name of which I didn't recognize, she rose suddenly. The snow outside looked almost alive under the station lights, swirling in hypnotic circles. She grabbed her bag and turned toward me. "This is my stop," she said. "There's an inn nearby. It's warm, quiet, and I think you could use a place like that." She hesitated, her voice softening. "Come in. Tonight, I need more than just company." Her words startled me, not for what they said, but for what they didn't. There was no flirtation in her tone, no hidden invitation between the lines. It was simply honest, raw, and human. I followed her off the train before I could think twice. The cold hit me like a wave, sharp and clean. The station was nearly empty, just a flickering lantern casting long shadows on the platform. We walked in silence through the snow, the sound of our steps the only rhythm in the night. When we reached the inn, its wooden walls glowed with the amber light of a fire inside. She opened the door, and warmth rushed out to meet us. Inside, everything smelled of pine and smoke. She poured 2 glasses of red wine, her hands steady but her eyes distant. "I wasn't lying," she said quietly. "Tonight, I just can't be alone." And so we sat by the fire, 2 travelers caught between loneliness and warmth, strangers sharing a silence that said more than words ever could. Morning came softly, carried in by the pale gold light that filtered through the window curtains. The crackle of the fire had faded to a whisper, leaving behind the faint scent of smoke and pine. For a long moment, I simply lay there, listening to the rain tapping gently against the glass. The quiet felt heavier than the night before, the kind of quiet that follows after an unspoken truth. She was already awake, sitting by the window with her knees pulled close, a sketchbook resting against them. Her hair, still slightly tangled from sleep, framed her face in soft disarray. She was sketching something in careful, deliberate strokes, her concentration absolute. On the small table beside her, steam curled from a cup of coffee. "You're an early riser," I said, my voice rough with sleep. She looked up, startled, then smiled faintly. "Habit, I guess. My father used to wake up before dawn whenever we traveled. Said he didn't want to waste a single sunrise." There was something tender in the way she said it, a warmth threaded with grief. I sat up, the blanket slipping from my shoulders, and watched her for a moment. The rain outside painted streaks on the glass, blurring the outlines of the trees beyond. "You stayed," she said quietly. "I did," I replied. "You asked me to." She nodded, closing her sketchbook. "I did. But maybe I shouldn't have." Her words hung in the air between us. Before I could respond, she exhaled and leaned back in her chair. "It wasn't about wanting company the way it might have sounded. It's just," she hesitated, her eyes unfocused, as if she were looking through time itself. "My father passed away a year ago tonight. We always took this same train route together every winter. This year, I thought maybe if I retraced our steps, I'd feel him again, sitting across from me, telling me stories, laughing at my terrible sketches. But it didn't work. The train felt emptier than ever." Her confession landed with quiet weight. I could see the fatigue in her eyes, the kind that no sleep could cure. I didn't offer sympathy or advice, I simply listened. Sometimes, that's all grief really asks of you, to be witnessed. For a long time, we sat there in silence. The rain softened, the light grew brighter, and the inn filled with the sound of waking life, footsteps upstairs, the clinking of dishes from the kitchen. When she finally rose, she looked lighter, as if speaking had released something she'd been carrying too long. "Thank you for staying," she said, slipping her sketchbook into her bag. "You didn't fix anything, but you helped me breathe." She paid for the room, then stepped out into the damp morning. I followed her to the door and watched as she walked toward the station, her figure dissolving into the mist and drizzle. For a brief, fleeting night, our paths had crossed, two travelers bound by loss, finding comfort not in love or passion, but in the quiet company of understanding. When I turned to leave, I felt something I hadn't in a long time, the fragile peace that comes when loneliness finally loosens its grip.